Hello and welcome. I am Ruben Banerjee, the editor of Outlook, and we are here to discuss the latest issue of our magazine. And joining me in today's conversation are Sunil Menon to my left, he is the managing editor, and Pranay Sharma, our foreign editor. And as always, I am very proud of this issue because we have a fantastic issue, I believe. And as you can see, this is how the cover looks like. And the subject of the cover story is also very fascinating. Is the foot soldiers, and it's election season. We are heading to general elections in a couple of days' time, and we have consistently been trying from Outlook, we have been trying to stay out of the clutter and tell the election stories very simply and differently, and that has been the whole idea. Why? Because soon after election dates were announced, our reporters went across the country reporting from the hotspots, Sabarimala in the south, Kashmir in the north, NRC in the east, trying to look at what are the issues that will possibly determine the outcome of the elections. And then couple of weeks back, we did a story on the India's Chanakyas, the backroom boys, the advisors who advises and possibly chart out the political journeys of our regional satraps. This time again, I think our latest cover story is also different because we are looking at the foot soldiers. Essentially what it means is the grassroots level workers of various political leaders who determines the fate of their leaders and the political parties that are in the contest. And this is how the cover story opens up. And it's a fascinating story because we have gone around the country profiling these otherwise faceless, anonymous foot soldiers. Pranay, what do you have to say about this story? I thought that we did pretty well.
I think so, because number one is the uniqueness of the story, because a lot of us who have either covered elections in a time or who are familiar with in their own region, they know people who come to their house, try to talk about a particular candidate, but people outside usually don't know them, and they play a very, very crucial role. So when we are looking at election at the larger picture, the small little things which goes on to making this a candidate win or lose, they are so important, and the foot soldiers are the key to that, which is often ignored or overlooked. So I think, it's a very
from the
ground up.
Yeah, because election coverage in India is mostly about the din of he said, she said, like whatever is being said by the political leaders or the TV studios. And these foot soldiers are essentially the boots on the ground.
Especially in a keenly contested.
Yes.
They will have to defend the party policies, the leaders, etc. Argue with people at various levels, tea shop or, wherever they have.
And the biggest party we have is a cadre-based party. So that's the cadres are the ones who ensure a very, very different kind of voting pattern, in fact.
And as the old wisdom says, that elections are often won and lost at the booth level. So a lot depends on these grassroots workers, and for them it's an existential fight, because if they lose an election, like they'll possibly have to flee because the other party guys will...
especially in places like Bengal.
Places like where keenly contested places like Bengal, like if you lose an election, you possibly lose your livelihood and flee from your home. And it's true for both the parties. Yeah, so it's a very fascinating story. We have gone around the country profiling foot soldiers of various political parties and essentially trying to figure out why these foot soldiers do what they do and what motivates them. Then again, we have another big story. It's about the model code of conduct and possibly how it is being flouted these days. So Sunil, you were anchoring this story.
Yeah, we were talking about a kind of transition from a time when politics was waged in a sense in the ordinary world, when election posters were on walls and things like that. Now transited to a time where election posters are there in outer space, and so that's why we call it the politics of the hyperreal. It's so magnified, and it's there. It comes to you on your teacup, on t-shirts, saris, merchandise of all sorts, and railway boarding passes, railway tickets, and if you look at Calcutta, for instance, Mamata Banerjee's this thing, the whole city is awash in pavements are colored blue and white.
Painted in blue and
So
white.
the entire,
Even in Mandy.
so the entire city is actually an election poster. What do you do? So, so our laws and institutions like the election commission and this and that. It's not just that they're possibly playing a partisan role as is being alleged. They're just plainly inadequate to keep up with this transition, which has gone to some other zone altogether. Mayawati's elephants, at one time they would ban posters on the wall.
And they had covered them.
Covered by Mayawati's elephants and this and that. What do you do about the Statue of Unity? It's an election poster in perpetuity. It's there. So it's on a wholly different scale, and it has far spilled over the bounds that were laid down in the original.
You can't possibly drape the entire city of Calcutta.
Yeah.
So,
Tell me, down south, we've always found, I mean, they were a little ahead of the rest of the country, and I mean, larger than life posts.
That's the thing. In Tamil Nadu especially, not necessarily Kerala, they behave very differently.
I'm talking about Tamil Nadu.
Tamil Nadu is, so that the campaigning going to a scale that was actually slightly superhuman was already there. This has gone from those giant cutouts to the tallest statue in this thing, outer space, things like that. So,
Yeah.
as always, we haven't taken any sides, but we are telling a story very impartially. And this is how a Calcutta flyover looks like. As you can see, it's the Trinamool Congress ruling party's colors,
and this
blue and white.
These films, like every party has got a film. Biopics right in the middle of elections. It's not just Narendra Modi. There's a Rahul Gandhi film. There's a Biju Babu film on Naveen Patnaik, which will play a role there.
Patnaik's father.
And the CPM chaps back in Kerala, they played a little trick. They pulled out they pulled out a film poster which had the superstar Mohanlal, with a striking resemblance to Pinarayi Vijayan, and it went viral on social media. And then the director came and said, no such film is on the anvil and things like that. But what's the point? I mean, it's already all over the place.
Everybody's trying to push the envelope a little.
Yeah. Envelope to a totally different orbit. I mean, it's not just an incremental. It's a change in the fundamental mode through which you are doing political propaganda. In fact.
So, because it's the election season, we have lots of political stories. We have Polyglot, a regular section that we have introduced where we try and capture the color and the mood and the sound, and short little snippety pieces. And we have in one of them, we have one of the items there is the lookalikes of Narendra Modi, Mamata Banerjee, and somebody else like Mayawati. Yeah. And as always, we have a very balanced issue. There is this fascinating story back of the book.
Their lives are entirely transformed by the fact that they look like this.
Yeah, and what was fascinating is that Narendra Modi lookalike, he's apparently joined the Congress. Very interesting. Everything happens everything is a possibility in India. And we have other stories as well, non-political ones, and we have these great kind of a photo essay from a village in Uttar Pradesh. It's not very far from Allahabad. The village name is Umri. And there is something very interesting happening there. There are about 130 odd twins in that village. And what really sets this story apart is our photographer Tribhuvan Tiwari had taken pictures of many of these twins way back in 2003. And he's gone back, and now in 2019 these twins have grown up. And there are more twins on the way. So why it happens, one really doesn't know.
I even heard that even cows there
So one really doesn't know what's there in the air of this village.
with the number of cows already out in UP, so that's probably not a good thing.
So it's an interesting story. And then we also have a very interesting international story. Prannoy can take us through that. It's about very unusual politicians who are taking the center stage in many countries the world over, right?
That's right. I mean, many of you may have read about this comedian who's leading the race in the Ukrainian presidential election so far. The final election will be on 21st of this month, and he may well become the president of the country. And like him, there are several other leaders who are coming to the center stage without much of a political background. Slovakia just had its first woman president, And she also, though a rights activist, is not from a political background, but became very popular over the years and defeated a much better known politician. So, and this is in different parts of the world we hear such things which is happening. Maybe this is part of the anti-establishment wave which is going through all the democracies, you know. Could be that it's a disdain for established political parties and politicians, you know, in a way that people are trying to express that. Or it could be that they want to give some clean people without the background of politics, you know, technocrat or from other field, them a chance of why not try to set things right. So they're all experimenting. Many of them may morph into very good politician over the years.
There's a variation on this in a non-serious candidates. They're not really like in the race, but they contest in order to make a statement. So you have turmeric farmers, a hell of a lot of them contesting against the Telangana Chief Minister's daughter, Kavita. Just as a mark of protest, you know, and I think plenty of them, I think even in Varanasi, I believe.
Otherwise as well, there are very many interesting stories, and this was again I found to be very interesting. Like it's apparently a new trend. Like you go out to a restaurant and you are served on cutlery and plates which are edible. So you eat the food and also you eat the cutlery, and so that's interesting.
So you must do it before the dish runs away with the spoon.
So the crockery and cutlery are also edible, and you eat them after you finish your food.
It's part of the dessert, I think.
So interesting. So overall, I think we are very proud of this issue. Do pick up the latest issue of Outlook, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you.